Before we get into what's happened, let's talk about who Kendra Hilty, the patient and person ultimately at the heart of this, actually is. Because her story doesn't start with this psychiatrist. Kendra describes herself as an ADHD coach with lived experience, a yoga instructor, and a practitioner of something called spiritual response therapy, which is a bit hard to define. So she's previously been trying to build up her coaching business through her social media, and she reports that she went significantly viral previously with a meme about ADHD and alcohol, although I couldn't track that one down. She reports that she's had a long history of trauma, substance use problems, and has had a lot of therapy before, as well as saying she got her previous ADHD diagnosis at the age of 21, where after using it to get through college, she felt the side effects were too much and so stopped taking it. However, after reading the book Taking Charge of Adult ADHD, she decided to return to psychiatry to pursue treatment. Kendra uses two therapy buzzwords a lot: transference and countertransference. So it's really important going into this you understand what the actual definitions are. Transference is when a patient projects their feelings about another individual onto their therapist. Normally it's their feelings around their parents, but sometimes it can be romantic. It's not unusual, and it can actually be very useful when used in therapy if managed properly. Countertransference is the reverse of that, and it's about when the psychiatrist or therapist starts to have emotional reactions or feelings towards the patient based on the transference that the patient is giving. So it's important to understand that the ideas of transference and countertransference, handled well, these dynamics can deepen a therapeutic relationship. However, if they're handled poorly, they can cause boundaries to blur and things to spin out. What's important here is, as we go through, you'll see that Kendra frames a lot of what her psychiatrist does through this lens of transference and countertransference. Possibly accurately, probably less so. But either way, it's a big part of her narrative and a big part of her understanding of why this has occurred. Here's where things get complicated. There are multiple ethical considerations when looking at this case. Firstly, how can we trust necessarily that the TikToks that Kendra is making are legitimate for a multitude of reasons? And that's not just to say that is Kendra having some sort of mental health episode that is leading to these statements. When we look at information posted and generated online, we have to be aware that it is for an audience, and therefore it shouldn't necessarily be taken at face value. As such, when I go through the videos, I will be looking at them as if it were interview responses in a description of the events from Kendra's perspective,